office here, and he's been involved, or is becoming involved in a new university. So I followed him over there, not without first seeing Mr. Gropius to say goodbye, and he asked me where I was going, and I told him and for whom and with whom I was working, and he said, "Oh, that's a terrible mistake." But they really were, I think, very dear and very close, and Rudolph thought the world of him, and I hope that Mr. Gropius did too. But I came over and became what's known in architectural professions as the job captain, the guy in charge of the project. And it lasted 7 years at that firm, Desmond Lord, before I went finally from the frying pan to the fire and went to New York to work for Paul in his own office in Manhattan. But the 7 years at Desmond Lord were all associated with this campus. And now 50 years later from those first days, it looks better than ever. And I couldn't be happier than to be here today. It started, of course, with the ring road was just being cut in, the utility building outside the ring road, and finally we were putting together the first classroom building, the Group 1, what we call the Group 1 building, and then it went from Group 1 to Group 2, and the Group 2 building was a little bit different from Group 1 in that it was air-conditioned and was full of lab equipment and much more expensive than the first building. And as a result of that, the first building was built for something like $26 a square foot, and the second was $34 a square foot. You can believe these numbers. And for that, Rudolph got fired. It came in over the budget. There was a $500,000 deficiency. They had to raid the Bureau of Building Construction slush fund to take care of it. But they said that guy's got to go. The state could not stand him. The State Bureau of Building Construction, and the firm Desmond Lord had been, in good stead with these people. But they assigned happily a fellow in their office named Arthur Poulis to us to take care of us and to make sure that we weren't fooling around. And Rudolph was relieved from his duties, although he had left behind schematic design, sometimes design development of the auditorium, the administrative building, and schematic design of this building. And so we figured out that the way to handle this was simply to visit Mr. Rudolph on a quiet basis and get critiques from him and carry the project forward as he might happily concur. And that we did, and he had an office in Boston at the time, and he never came to our office again. I'd always bring work down to him at his office, or I'd send it to his New York office, so he could bless it. And that worked out very well. We had his best input from the auditorium building forward. Auditorium building, we had to lose one of the lecture halls. These were all budgetary situations. That was on the rear of behind the stage. We lost that. The administration building, which was greatly simplified, but one wouldn't know it today. But these buildings were much richer and much more complex than they turned out to be, but still looked pretty good to me. And that was true also, obviously, of any other building. I guess, and then it finally came to this building, which he had taken through schematic design, but which the state was really on top of us about and couldn't stand it and wanted it to. They drew it as a box, if you can believe that. They just cut off all the cantilevers and they made architectural suggestions. But fortunately, this fellow that they assigned to us from their division, the Bureau of Building Construction, was very sympathetic to us and very helpful in getting our approvals from that state agency. And he's really kind of the silent hero of this whole episode, I think, for me, from my point of view. This never would have happened without this fellow overriding all of his mates at the Bureau of Building Construction and allowing this stuff to go forward with these buildings. And so it was a very, very fulfilling experience, thanks to the assignment of this fellow to these buildings. and his name was, I think I probably mentioned, Arthur. And I haven't seen him now in years and don't know where he is, and I presume he's retired, and I hope he's healthy and happy. But some of the interesting stories that I can remember are, well, there's one about the tower, and Rudolph had done a number of towers. Rudolph had intended that tower from day one. They were always in all of his perspectives. But he finally wasn't able to do it because he was fired. And I quietly, privately went to him and said, time to do the tower. and he said, no, I'm not going to do the tower, you are. I said, no, this is your tower. So I went back and forth, and I realized that he was serious. And so I took a crack at it, as they say, and did a couple schemes, and I bring them to his office, which was then on the waterfront in North End of Boston, and pin them up on the wall, and he'd come up from New York from his office, and to review work at his Boston office, and I'd hang around in there and get a free critique. And it took 2 or 3 visits with him until I finally got a free close, and he finally said to me, it looks great. He said, except the top is wrong. I said, what do you mean the top is wrong? I said, it's at 45 degrees. Everything in that canvas is 45 degrees. What do you tell me? And he said, I know. I said, he knew all that. He said, but as you climb, he said, you must ascend. He said, think of the Goths who start like this and end like this. So I turned it from a 45 to a 60 on the diagonal, on the bias, and he was happy. And that made me happy, and now I hope we're all happy.